Hello, everyone, and welcome to a really great episode of Training Unleashed because today's episode is going to be about you, which is a little different. I'll get to that in a second. Before we go, on behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank all of you for listening in today. We're going to have a great show. I also want to thank my sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio, and remind everyone that you can go to YouTube, Training Unleashed Network, and watch the show and really get entertained. So, typically, when we do the show, we are really focusing the show on training, which we will definitely be talking about in the show because this is Training Unleashed after all. But we talk about it maybe like in the micro, and we talk about the people which we train. In this episode, we're going to talk a lot more about ourselves. And I'm sure everyone's heard that old adage where, if the plane goes down or it goes down, but the plane has problems, you put the air on yourself first. Really yourself being the best you can be is super important. So I've got a great guest with me, Barry Auchettl. He is the founder of the Life Vision Academy, and he is a huge advocate of the importance of vision. Now, Barry, there are two kinds of people in this world that I know of. People that really are into having a vision, set their vision, define their vision, and people that don't seem to get why. So let's just start with the first question here is it really all that important? Because surely many successful people have never had a vision.
I would actually agree with that, Evan. And what's really interesting when you introduce vision, I see vision as two different ways. I see vision both as eyesight and also as insight. In actual fact, we made a movie called Vision 2020 from eyesight to insight. And I think there's actually both components that we need to look at when you consider that 90% of people over 50, which is probably your audience, are wearing some form of corrective lenses.
That is very true, but I'm talking more about the vision of where you want to accomplish
Yes.
and achieve. And I know you help people with vision, actual literal vision,
Yes.
but we're talking about a life vision.
That life vision, to me, stemmed from that. What I recognized when I was helping people with their physical eyesight, one of the biggest issues that came up, why people wore glasses in the first place, is that they weren't actually living their life's vision. They weren't living what was really making them spark.
So could you give an example of a life vision? Something so that people can get an understanding of what you're
Sure.
talking about?
Okay. So a life vision could be someone who's, working in a job that they're not really happy with. And they feel like all they're really meant to be doing may be to help kids. And there's something within them that vision within them calls them to say there's a bigger reason for them to be here. And some people might, see a divine aspect to that. To me, there's almost an individual calling that's called us to be a teacher or to be a leader or to be a trainer or whatever it is. And so that vision within us really says you are here to actually step out and be the absolutely best person that you can be. I don't believe any person came here and said, I'm going to come to Earth and have the most mediocre life I can think of.
Yeah, many people accept that. This is a little off topic, but I think on topic. In my experience in life, I was very fortunate. I was raised by very successful parents. So my expectation that I would be successful was very high. And then I knew a lot of people that were as bright, if not brighter than I were, that were raised in circumstances not nearly as nice as mine, who seemed to not step up to their potential because they had this mental block that they weren't able.
These mental blocks, and I get that because I say that all the time. Mediocrity is like, it's okay, my job's okay, or it doesn't excite me, but it's okay. And I think what happens is that there's these sabotage programs that happen within us. That something comes up that someone says, you're not that special. And somehow we take that on and we say, well, everyone else can be special, but I'm not meant to anyway. And therefore there's an acceptance because of subconscious programming that's going on that stops them from being how great they can be.
Yeah. So does vision happen because somehow you find it, or is it something you craft and create?
I think it's something that at some point you have to choose and say, I want more. There's a saying that, a harbour is a safe place for a ship, but a ship is not designed to stay in the harbour.
I love that.
And at some point we decide, and I decided coming to America for me is I was in a really safe harbour living in Australia, working in Australia, and that wasn't enough for me. So I decided to shift from Australia to America. And I said to people, it's time for my ship to sail. There's that expression. And to really fully live my, if I'm talking about, living your vision, I had to live my vision as well.
Yeah. A lot of people listening to the show are probably wondering if you could share a practical example of what a vision is and how one lives that vision, how one creates that vision.
One of the ones I get quite often is I had a lady who really felt like she had to write this book. And this book was about how to be in relationship with other people, particularly in an intimate situation. And she had this idea for years before she came and saw me. And what was stopping her is that she didn't feel that she deserved to be big enough to write this book. Like, who am I to write this book? Who am I to talk about this? When we worked with her and said, look, your vision is to get this out in the world. That's going to make a difference, not just to yourself, but to everyone else who sees this book. And once she cleared the subconscious programs of I'm not good enough, who am I to do this, all those sort of programs that we can run subconsciously, and she got to clear those, she ended up not only writing the book, but has created an entire business supporting other people in finding a deeper, more personal connection with others.
It's interesting listening to you because I think what you're saying is interesting because I think a lot of people, she sort of had a vision of what she wanted to do, but she had a limiting belief at the same time.
Yes.
Right. And I think a lot of people have limiting beliefs. And what I think I'm hearing you say is you got to clear the limiting beliefs to enable a vision to flourish.
And that's where my work really came into fore, because what I specialize in is finding what are those limiting beliefs that you may or may not know, and then how do you clear that literally in under a minute.
Okay. And we're going to do an experiment here, right?
Sure.
I'm going to give you the lead and I'm going to share away. So
what I do is I have a technique which I call light body alignment. And this technique looks like I'm clicking my fingers like this. But what we're doing is we're just shifting the energy field, because a lot of the emotion gets trapped in our body and also in our energy field outside body. Some people call that an aura, some people call that an electromagnetic body, whatever you want, depending on how scientific or non-scientific you are. But what I want to do is, the way I work with people is I normally work with one person, and what I found is people listening also get the benefit. And to explain that, there was a fellow who did one of my classes on clear blocks to money flow. And he cleared, in the third class, there was about clearing the blocks to your parents. And he cleared the blocks to his parents. 20 minutes later, his parents, who had disowned him 30 years earlier, had not spoken to him, rang him and gifted him $30,000.
Wow.
This is how far this is. From a session that I ran 2 years earlier. He was listening to the replay.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
So for your listeners, even if you're listening to this in 5 years' time, it will have the same effect as if I'm working with you right now. And so the way I do this is I come up with a statement, and I've actually created a statement for today, which I thought would be a really cool one for everyone. And the statement is, I deserve to live my life's purpose. Now, Evan, I'm just going to get you to do that, and I'm going to be muscle testing from now on, because muscle testing is a bit like the kinesiology, just checking your body to see whether there's a stress or not a stress. It's like being connected to a lie detector.
Okay.
So can you say for me, please, I deserve to live my life's purpose?
I deserve to live my life's purpose.
Okay. And what's really interesting is I know, from talking to you that you are actually living your life's purpose. So some people here may say, I'm already doing it. Some people may say, I'm not. But the stress is actually on that word deserve. Like, do you deserve it? Like, you've had a really great upbringing. Like, maybe you had to struggle a bit more and would have felt like you deserved it, or were you just given it? Whatever it is, what comes up for you? I'm really curious. What comes up around that word deserve for you? Because there's a stress on the word deserve.
I think that I have worked really hard in my life and that I have the right to make my dreams a reality.
Right. Yeah.
And that not that I'm more special than others, but I recognize that everyone's special and that I get to be special because I'm special.
Great. Okay. So I'm just going to refine that just a tiny bit for you, and this is for everyone else, right? And a lot of people say, look, I'm working really hard. And I love that expression. I'm working really hard and I deserved it, which you do. However, I believe that we deserve to live our life's purpose just by being here. And the working hard is the result of an action that we take because we deserve to live it, not the other way around.
Yeah, I agree. And I just say something for clarity. I'm defining work as the time I am spending on developing myself
Sure.
as a person, and not a lot of people connect work with hardship or something not pleasurable.
Yeah.
All my work is joyful. So it wasn't like I deserve it because I worked hard and I had misery to get there.
Yes.
I had no misery getting there. I enjoyed every second. I don't know if this is helpful or unhelpful, but
So there's going to be a full range of people going from where you're at to people who are really struggling even getting started. And so what I want people to do is think about what it means for you listening, for the people listening at home, because you would notice, and I want you to say to everyone, just say to yourself, I deserve to live my life's purpose. And in 2 minutes time, I want you to tell me, notice if there's a difference. So what I'm going to do now for you is I'm going to clear this. As I said, we're going to use this technique that I created. Okay. And so just to let you know, when I clear that, a little story pops up as I clear this, depending on where those points are. And what came up for you, it actually had to do with, your father, like trying to follow your father's role initially until you actually eventually found your own role.
my God, you are so correct.
Right.
I so admired my father.
Yeah.
So much of what I got in life was from him
Yeah.
until I achieved that. And then I kept building more.
Yeah. Yep.
So we've never talked about this. So
No. So this is what happens when we do this. The information behind it tells us why we actually created this thing of, maybe I don't deserve to go ahead where my father was because he was so good, whatever it was. And so in clearing it, it actually lets you propel even further into your life's vision.
yeah.
So I'll get you to say again, I'm going to retest it. I'm going to retest it for everyone. I deserve to live my life's purpose.
I deserve to live my life's purpose.
And that's holding really strong now. Can you hear a difference in saying that yourself?
Yes, I can. I said it with joy and power this time. The first time I said it with power, but no joy.
That's right. That's the difference. So most people say, yes, there's no stress. But when they say it again, they can hear that there's a different nuance in the way that they say it. And that it's just lighter, or it just comes through, it could be clearer.
Make sense?
And so the result of this will be what happens, and this is the important part, that what we've done is we've cleared the energy around it. What I don't clear is you hanging on to your old stories. So that's the role of the individual to now to say, okay, I do deserve to live my life's purpose. And they're not going to, but this happened to me and this happened to me. This is not fair because I was, all the stories that people use not to go into and live their full vision.
I'm going to say something here.
Sure.
This is me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it might not apply to others, but I view myself as the author of my life. And I look at everything that has happened to me, both good or bad, as good. That the things that have happened to me that have been setbacks and things of that nature have been learnings.
Yep.
Things that have made me stronger, healthier. I look, my father passed. I'm sad that he passed, but I don't look at, I have chosen would be the right term.
Yeah.
which was not always true, to realize the things that I felt victim to were things I actually became a victor of. So maybe throwing this whole thing off, and I don't mean to, but
No, that's actually perfect. And what's interesting when you're talking, I'm testing you now when you're talking to see if there's no stress on it. And you totally are with that. I want to acknowledge you for that. And the way I would express that really simply is that life happens for me, not to me.
yes, I love that. Never heard it, but I love that.
And so in life happens for me means that even when I went through a stage of, actually improved my eyesight, 2020 eyesight, was really excited, went back and they found a pituitary tumor sitting on my optic nerve that literally at one point they gave me 2 hours to live.
Oh my goodness.
And so when you're at that stage, it's, I could have gone like, this is not fair or whatever. But I actually took the opportunity that was there to step forward and to say, I am now taking control of my life. And so that was a real turnaround for me in my life to say, this is no longer, I'm going to be told what to do. I'm going to make some decisions. So I negotiated with the doctors for 3 months to work on myself before they did anything else. And then I negotiated until eventually, I can remember it was about 10 years ago, I went back to the surgeon and he said, I don't want to see you again. You are fine. And, that was, again, another stepping stone in my life, which it was like, this is now a history lesson for me of who I was, not who I am.
Interesting.
And that this is a gift, life happens for me. All that happened so that I would move away from being a classroom teacher, which I enjoyed, but I didn't want to spend 30 years of my life as a classroom teacher. And that enabled me to be a teacher, but a teacher of life rather than of geography or maths or whatever.
Cool. So are we done this one-on-one thing, or is there more to it?
No, there's nothing else we need to do. It's as simple as that.
So what I want to do is take this conversation and apply it to our audience. Let me take a moment and talk to you about something really big happening at the Learning Network. A lot of people think extended reality, like virtual reality, augmented reality, 360, etc., is about tomorrow. We're not there yet. We're not ready. Let me tell you, the Learning Network is ready today. We are doing incredible things. And the amazing thing is, it's not as expensive as you think, and the return on investment is incredible. Learn more. Visit learning.net to learn about the future of training at the Learning Network.
Sure.
Okay. So this show is Training Unleashed, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to start off with a point of view that I think is really important, which is if you're going to be effective in training, corporate training, personal training, coaching training, training your kids, etc., you need to live and be that example of what you're training and what you're trying to execute.
Definitely.
And even if you're in an organization where there's a lot of negativity and things that are beyond your control, you can control you, correct? So how would you say if I headed up a training department or training department reported to me, or I was just a member of a training department, how you could take this principle that you just shared and have that become useful for them in what they do in the world of training?
I believe that being positive is contagious. In a room and everyone's negative and in some firms I've gone to, and it may not happen in your firm, but there might even be that bitchiness that goes on where they start complaining about each other or gossiping about each other and doing those sorts of things. And what I've noticed, you just need one person to say, I'm going to do it differently. I'm not going to get caught in the gossip. I'm not going to go down the negative track. I'm going to be positive about this. And what I've even found when I was still teaching and doing this for myself as I was teaching, people would come up to me, some of the most negative teachers would come up to me and say, I noticed there's something different about you, Barry. I'm not sure what it is. You just seem calmer, you seem more happier, you seem more at peace. And they slowly would take it on. So it's not necessarily that they're going to change overnight, but when I can hold that presence of who I am, and that to me is what a true leader is setting it by example, others start to notice. They may not say it initially, but they do notice, and it gives them an invitation to do something about their own life, of turning that around.
So I'm going to make a statement. And as I sit here thinking about the statement, I don't want to make the statement. I'll explain why I don't want to make the statement. But I believe the statement to be true. And it's the premise of the show.
Sure.
Companies don't value training departments. And the people in training departments get frustrated because they don't have a seat at the table at the C-suite.
Mm-hmm.
That in some companies they do, but most companies they don't. That they're the first to have their budget slashed and people don't value what they do. And what I'm hearing from you, assuming that the statement I made is true, is one, that doesn't have to be our circumstance.
Sure.
And that we can choose to lead our training department and lead within the organization to create the vision that we want to create, because that doesn't have to be a universal fact, which is unleashing training, which name of the show.
Sure. I think the companies that I work with do value their staff. So I don't want to take the premise to start with that companies don't value training.
It's not the staff, it's the function of training that, and I'm not trying to defend this because everything in my being says the exact opposite is true.
Sure.
So like I spent a lot of time in franchising, and I truly believe great franchising are great training companies.
Yes.
I believe McDonald's success was they were a phenomenal training organization.
Yeah, running a multi-billion-dollar business with kids that won't clean up their room.
Yeah. Having said that, and I'm not going to mention the name, there's no reason I could mention the name, but one of the largest, and if I said the name, everyone here would know the name.
Yeah.
With over $1 billion in sales, had one person in the training department, one, and when I called to follow up in the conversation I had with that person, he was discharged. Wow. So they had none. I just literally had a conversation with another client whose company was not valuing training, and he's sort of new and not a training person. He says, well, we do $4 billion in sales. If I can increase sales by 10%, that's a $400 million opportunity. And that's the kind of attitude you want to have. So I'm not quite sure where I've taken this argument here.
It's an interesting point. And I'm wondering, as we head, the way the businesses are moving in the future, that old model of we're making money, we don't need to do training because we're making, $1 billion, whatever that is. They're actually, what money are they leaving on the table for not doing that? And therefore, we talk about having people with vision. It's a fairly myopic way of seeing the world. If you think it's going to be a short-term sales, what do we get this year? And if you're wanting to expand, and to me, if I want to be here in the next 20, 30, 40 years doing the work that I'm doing, it's always about me expanding. And it's the same with companies. If they're not expanding, they actually will be slowing down. And there's many companies that we know that we thought were a staple, and certainly in Australia, there were companies that were going to be like, these people are going to be around forever. And then next thing you know, they're in bankruptcy.
Look at when I was a kid in the 60s, GM was like, as goes GM, so goes the country, the most successful company in the history of the world.
Sure.
More money than anybody had. In fact, I remember in economics class talking about U.S. Treasuries as being a totally safe investment. And then we had a discussion because if you bought bonds in GM, they paid a little bit more. It wasn't GM as safe as the U.S. government. And of course, for people that don't know, because not everyone does know, GM in 2008 went bankrupt.
That's correct.
And came out. But I never would have believed it was possible they come bankrupt. They manufactured 50% of the cars in the whole world. So it definitely happens.
And some of these new companies coming out at the moment where they're over-investing in training, if you like, if there is such a thing, they're the ones that are scaling up the top 400 companies in the world. Like they're just leaping and bounding, recognizing that employees too, by the way, are not going to be as loyal as they were in the past and will put up with everything as long as they can get their gold watch in 50 years' time. That if they don't feel like they're changing, they're moving, they will just go to the next place really quickly.
I've lost my train of thought here. I will pull it back here. You can have the greatest idea in the world. If you can't execute, that idea doesn't work.
Yes.
Great four distinctions of leader. It's by Covey, but they talk about having, real clarity on what's the most important thing. But you can't achieve it without training. You can't innovate if you can't train, because change doesn't happen just because it happens. And in fact, I remember when the iPhone came out and I would watch commercials for the iPhone, and the commercials for the iPhone were actually training videos.
Yes.
They would show you a feature and how it worked on the TV commercial because they were training their customers how to use the phone so they would value the phone. And even if you watch Apple commercials now, maybe not as dominantly as they did under Steve Jobs, but a lot of them are highlighting features and showing you how to use features in the technology, and they're training their customers on how to use it. But Barry, this is an interesting conversation. And I'm going to ask you in a second to tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and who you work with.
Sure.
But what I want to say to the audience before I turn this over for you to do that is we've had a really wide conversation here. And sometimes it's difficult when you have a wide conversation to know, well, what was the learning they were trying to get?
Sure.
Because, we talked about the importance of your own belief in having your own vision. We talked about the environment in which we work in. But really what people should get from you, and what I think makes you most powerful, is having the clarity and confidence to make your life vision a reality. Am I saying that correctly?
That's correct, yes. From an idea into reality. We need both. We need the idea, because some people don't even look at the idea.
Yeah.
So we've got to find the idea, and then how do we put that into a reality?
And there's no way in a short podcast we can cover that. So tell people how they can reach you, what you do, who are the people you like to work with, who are the people you're willing to work with that you don't like to work with.
Thanks, Evan. Look, I'm really after people who choose to make a change in their life. That's the bottom line for this. And so in businesses, we actually have even created a board game called Conversations. That's a great starting point where we actually start to get people to have a conversation with each other rather than disagreeing with each other. So it's about bringing people back together. And then what we can do is we can work with people through the Life Vision Academy, which I actually founded. And we've trained all these coaches literally throughout the world now that can actually get out there and support people in changing the negative belief systems that are subconscious behind them. And we can do all the clever marketing, we can do all the clever social media, but if we have a fundamental belief that we're not good enough or we're not as good as anyone else, then everything will people pick that up. They pick up what's real and what's not real. And so it's such an important process. The people I go to are people who know that they're here to have a difference in this world. And the people I like to work with are people who want to help others and make money. Now, for some people, making money is slightly above helping people. Yeah. And they're probably not my market. Because I found that if it's about making money and then you may help people, I generally found that doesn't last. It's not sustaining.
Well, reciprocity.
Exactly. So the people I love working with are people who say, look, I really want to help others. I've been called to help others. And that's great. Unless we can match that with the money as well, and money should sort of sit just behind that, you're not going to be here long term. I want people who are going to be here long term making a difference. And so far, I've got this vision of 700 people making a difference where they can affect over 10 million people through the programs that I run. That's what we've measured it at. And so far, we've already trained over 200 people at that level. Now, if we get over 700 people having a positive impact on to 10 million people plus, then we've made a positive footprint on the entire planet.
So, Barry, you're doing a great job explaining your vision, which I
Yes,
think is powerful,
sure.
and what you do, but how do people reach you?
Okay. The easiest way to people to reach me is at lifevisionacademy.com. That's the easiest site. And they can have a look there, see what programs are there, have a look around. There's also a YouTube channel associated with that as well. They can get some free videos, they can get to clear some stuff. If they sign up at lifevisionacademy.com, we'll be running some free programs in December so that you can clear some of these blocks that you may have even more, find out a little bit more about me, and then get in contact with me and we can have a conversation about how I can best support you and your team.
That sounds fantastic. So it's lifevisionacademy.com.
That's correct.
And for my listeners, if you go to Sweet Seat TV or I go to our YouTube channel, you could see it in its background. So lifevisionacademy.com is easy to find and get.
Yeah.
We always end the show sharing one tip, but I'm going to do something a little different. You're going to get to share your one tip, but I want to share a story with you. I didn't want to do it at the beginning part because I didn't want to take too much time. But when you talked about my father as a model for me,
Yep.
I adored my father. And I want to just share one story about my father because this story says a lot about him and how I think when you hear the story, how it would have an impact on me. So when I was about 10 years old, we had a family business, and this story takes place in like 1969, 70, 71, maybe I was 11, 12 years old. My father had me in the car. He couldn't get rid of me. I'm sure he had no desire for me to be with him. He had to go to a meeting of creditors. There was a builder who owed him $15,000. In today's dollars, that would be like 100,000 or more. It was a lot of money. And in this meeting, there were people that he owed $100, $200, and they are swearing at this guy, really upset. I mean, just really upset. And my father was calm, and he asked some questions. And by the way, my parents were successful, but it was a lot of money. It wasn't a little money. It wasn't like, oh, he was worth $20 million, so 15,000 was no big. No, it was a big amount of money.
Sure.
And driving home, I said to my dad, I said, Dad, I don't understand. You lost $15,000. And all these people who lost a lot less, they were really upset, but you're not upset. And he said, if I thought getting upset would get me my money back, I would be the most upset person there. He said, it's bad enough I lost the money. To have to be upset too would just make it worse.
Yep.
Which is such an amazing point of view that, almost like you feel like you owe yourself to be upset because something bad happened.
Yep.
Where he said, no, I choose to when I be upset and not. And I choose that it was bad enough I don't need to be upset too. And then he did something amazing, is he actually hired this person to be a salesperson because he was a builder and we were in the kitchen business and designed kitchens. And he had contacts with all these other builders. And he became one of the most successful builders that we had. Yeah. And the net of the story is he probably made his 15 grand back many times over because he didn't allow the experience to ruin and upset his life.
Wonderful story. And look, that really fits in with the tip that I want to give people to complete today. And perfect. The word is choose. You get to choose your vision. Not your parents, not your friends, not your family, not your boss, not your other employees around you. You get to choose your vision. And once you choose your vision, believe in it. Because you're the one that can make the difference in the world.
Love the tip. Love the tip. Barry, on behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank you for being a guest. I want to thank, on behalf of the Learning Network, our listeners. I also want to thank our sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. Everyone have a fantastic day.